Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. Last night's episode of SmackDown was a tag team heavy episode, which once again showed cracks in the bloodline. We're going to be getting into all of this and more on today's episode, but joining me to talk about it all, first of all, the head of reviewing, Coby Galenzoski. How are you today, Coby?
I'm here. I'm doing fine. We got our tag team heavy SmackDown to talk about. There's quite a bit of topics that we can talk, so I'm excited for it. We can do this.
Absolutely. It's going to be a hell of a show. And also joining me today, the head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you today, Anthony?
Doing all right. Looking forward to talking about SmackDown from last night. A couple of highlights, a couple of lowlights, and we'll see. We'll go on.
Absolutely. And after a couple of weeks off the show, he is back. Also joining us today, Ignacio Penales. How are you today, Ignacio?
Pretty damn good. Looking forward to talking about yesterday's SmackDown. Definitely, I think there was a lot more lowlights than highlights, but we'll get into that.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, starting as we mean to go on. But let's kick off the show with talking about the Grayson Waller effect. And on yesterday's show, we were talking about how we were very excited for this segment. A new talk show, we welcomed it, basically. Something a little bit different to the likes of Miz TV and all of that, which we've seen a lot of. The KO show, all of those you've seen a lot of on the main roster over the past couple of years. And in NXT, the Grayson Waller's been killing it with his Grayson Waller effect talk show. However, in all honesty, I was actually disappointed by last night's segment. I don't really see what the point was in it, to be brutally honest here. AJ Styles didn't really get me hyped up for the fact that he's going for the World Championship. Grayson Waller didn't really have what he calls a viral moment on the show. It was kind of it was a bit weird. It didn't really set anything up at all. Of course, after it, we had the Karrion Kross segment, where Karrion Kross basically called out AJ Styles, and they're going to have a match next week on SmackDown now, which in itself is a little bit weird. It feels like they're just chucking in Karrion Kross wherever they can chuck him in at the moment. But I don't know. What did you think about this, Anthony?
I had a couple problems with this. The first one was I really liked what they did on Raw, where they had interviews with Seth talking about the match and his career and the importance of this title and everything. I kind of felt like they should have done the same thing with AJ on SmackDown. Why not have the sit-down interview with him like Seth, talking about his career, maybe talking about Roman, talking about Seth, having those things because they do have history together. Like, I thought that would have been a better choice than this Grayson Waller segment. I get it. Waller and AJ have history. I get it. AJ went down to NXT and did a small little program with him. But to me, this was more telling between Grayson Waller and, of course, after the Karrion Kross thing. It's like, okay, you're telling us that there's a potential of two people that are possible people that will screw AJ out of the title next week. Like, that's what it's telling me. It's like, okay, these are two potential heels that will cost AJ the title. And I thought that was just a mistake. Like, why not hype this up the same way they did with Seth? Like, it's telegraphing to me, okay, Seth's the guy. Like, I think Seth should be the guy, but it's more telegraphed of going, AJ just happens to be the guy that's in the way for Seth. That's what I got out of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do completely see that point there, Anthony. I mean, the thing about it, which is interesting, you touched upon, yes, perhaps Karrion Kross or Grayson Waller could now screw AJ Styles when he faces Seth Rollins at Night of Champions. I really hope that doesn't happen in an inaugural title bout. Perhaps it will, though, because you do make a good point. It does seem like they're building into that direction.
Honestly, I want it to be clean. Like, anytime there's a title match like this, I prefer clean, especially this for the inaugural. I want it to be clean, but I'm getting afraid based on Grayson Waller's history and Kross's history that there's going to be some type of shenanigans that cost AJ the match. And I don't want that to be played out that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does it does definitely it does concern me that perhaps that is the thing, and it's the inaugural title bout. Like, come on, they can't do it, surely not. But who knows? It was certainly an interesting one, and I do agree with you. I said a couple of weeks back, I don't think the Seth Rollins and AJ Styles match needs to be a feud. I think it just needs to be about both men explaining why they want the championship, what it means to them, and they can build that up very easily. And the interview segment's a great way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. AJ and Seth are both former multiple-time world champions. They have the prestige, which adds to this title that they're trying to build up. So why you wouldn't just do it promo-wise? And I like Grayson Waller. He's a heck of a talent. Like, absolutely. But you could have done the Waller effect with someone else and built a feud out of that. There was no reason to do AJ other than they have history. Okay, well, you're not going to build on that because that's not the match for the pay-per-view. You could have done it after. Do it after. And him burying AJ for losing to Seth. And then you could have done something with it. Not now.
Yeah. No, I 110% do agree with you there, Anthony. But, I mean, let's now move on to the next topic, and let's talk about not Pretty Deadly, sorry. Let's talk about LA Knight, who, of course, we talked about on yesterday's show, was teaming up with Rick Boogs for the first time yesterday to take on the Street Profits. And I said going into this, I really hope that this is a short alliance. Because, yeah, I mean, surely the Street Profits weren't going to take the loss. It was their first match back on SmackDown, or I don't know. Actually, I think they did have one when they got drafted. But, their first match officially on the SmackDown brand again. They have to get the victory here, and yes, they did. And after the match, LA Knight took out Rick Boogs, and that alliance was very, very short-lived. I mean, I'm presuming where they go from here is the LA Knight Rick Boogs feud, and then perhaps Money in the Bank for LA Knight. I mean, Coby, what do you think?
I mean, it's obvious that whole tag team or that whole alliance was short, and it was obvious based on LA Knight's promo. And I think he gave us a reason to kind of care about this match, and that's what you want from a talent. Of course, it's obvious that LA Knight versus Rick Boogs is going to be a match in, obviously not next week, probably the week after, because it should just be a quick one-on-one. LA Knight goes over. I don't think it should be a longer feud than that. I don't know if we see the same thing where LA Knight grabs another guy on the SmackDown roster and say, "Oh, I can beat the Street Profits with this guy," and I don't know who they would put. Maybe he brings out Von Wagner and says, "Oh yeah, this guy's a free agent. He ain't even on SmackDown, and I can still beat the Street Profits with them." Is that the direction they go?
That, though. I would like to see. Wait, what on earth is happening here?
Oh my God, let me do it. Let me do it.
I told you this was going to happen.
Oh gosh, we're trying out new camera technology today, guys, and it doesn't help us out there. But yeah, no, Coby, I would actually really love to see that LA Knight involved Von Wagner together. I think. I mean, it would just be one of those things where it's a random guy that he brings in. I don't think they go that direction because they got a lot of ways to go. Because of course we have Night of Champions and then we got Money in the Bank. I don't think they're going to fit in that once again where LA Knight faces the Street Profits if they are putting him in a good position like the Money in the Bank ladder match. So I don't think we're going to get a second, I can beat the Street Profits with any random person and whips out Von Wagner out of nowhere. And I mean, it'd be a funny line for him to say, well, this guy's not even on SmackDown and I can still beat the Profits with him. But I think the match accomplished what it was supposed to. Street Profits get a win. We don't know exactly where the Street Profits are going to go because tag titles are, of course, unified. But LA Knight has to be a strong favorite and has to be in a good position for the Money in the Bank. If he wins it, if not, he has to be one of those guys that if we're predicting and if we have that short list, it's like LA Knight is one of those names that like they could really give him the briefcase. Yeah, I think it'd be a bad idea, but I certainly do think that they could do it. But I mean, no, I honestly, now you've given me the idea. Now you've given me the idea, Coby. I'd love LA Knight and SmackDown to just come out and go, come Friday, I'm teaming up with Von Wagner, and I'm gonna beat the Street Profits. I think that would be great. And even he could be a tag team dash manager with Von Wagner, and maybe that's a way to get him over. Because as we said last week on Monday, Von Wagner's directionless on the main roster. I don't know why he was called up this early, but that's a possibility.
But there's still the weirdest thing is they're still continuing his stuff in NXT. Like they're now attempting a sympathy gimmick.
They're finally building,
which is weird. It's stupid. Yeah, exactly. They're finally giving him a character, and then it's like, well, you're technically a free agent. So I don't know.
Yeah, we got a couple of people in the comments here. Firstly, Drizzy is in the comments, and he is going LA Knight, yeah. And also, he agrees that AJ should have just had his own video package. And then we've also got Clark Taylor, who is currently preparing for one of his best mates' weddings this weekend, where he's saying monster shout out to you, Clark, as well. We hope you're having a great weekend of the show. But now let's get on to a call-up. And that call-up is Pretty Deadly. I didn't know how I felt about them originally in NXT UK, but in NXT, they really impressed me. They're just a really entertaining duo. They're sound in the ring, but they're also entertainment. And at the end of the day, WWE is sports entertainment. And Pretty Deadly personify that greatly. I mean, Michael Cole on the show yesterday brought up, of course, the late superstar Billy Graham, and he said that Pretty Deadly are a team which he would have loved. And in a way, they kind of are a little bit reminiscent of him, I guess, slightly. But yeah, I mean, they had a really good debut. They got the win over Butch and Holland. There was a miscommunication between Butch and Ridge Holland, so I'm thinking, please, can we get Pete Dunne back? Please. But Ignacio, what did you think about this segment?
I'm not a big fan of Pretty Deadly to begin with, so I don't know. This might be kind of one-sided as far as the not very, or maybe you could say very biased. But I don't know. It's just they are entertaining. They try to engage the crowd a lot, which is good, right? Because that's the whole point of the show, and the whole point of you trying to engage the audience and get their attention and so forth. But that's basically what their characters are based on. But they're very flamboyant, very cocky, but yesterday in the match, it was just kind of weird. There were some misspots, and it's just, they're not very familiar with working with these two guys. And if they have worked with them before, you can tell it had been a while. And I just thought the finish was kind of weird. Holland and Pete Dunne or Butch were going for the double, fifths on the chest, the Sheamus, forgot what he calls it. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, the one member from Pretty Deadly unlocks himself from the ropes, and then they do the double team finish, and then he goes back and unlocks himself from the ropes. Well, it's like, if you could have unlocked yourself from the ropes to begin with, why didn't you do that? It's just
that's
like,
good point.
It didn't really make sense. I don't think it helped them out very much, but it's still very early. I'll say this: it's still very early. First impressions or what have you. I just don't think that, and you can include Grayson Waller in this. I don't think this was it was a great way to debut and highlight Grayson Waller, but I just think people just need to get more familiar with these characters and with these people. So I think it's just one appearance on a show or one match on a show. You shouldn't be too judgmental on it. I just think people need to get more familiar with the characters and what they're about, and then put them with people that are gonna help give them good matches. Overall, just thought it was a little bit convoluted and not the best first appearance. But I mean, like I said, it's just too early to be too judgmental on these guys, these characters.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was their first week on SmackDown. I personally thought they did a great job. It was a weird finish, I will agree with that. But it's one of those things where I don't think that was necessarily Pretty Deadly's fault. That's, the production of the match and all of that. And I do think they have a bright future in WWE. as I said in yesterday's show, the one concern I do have is if WWE treat them as a tag team who can lose a lot of matches and then suddenly win like big ones at times, like they've done with a lot of similar tag teams to Pretty Deadly in the past. I hope they buck them strongly while keeping the entertaining aspects of their characters, because they work so well together. They do. And Drizzy in the comments over on YouTube is going, Von Wagner needs a GPS because he is lost. That's the line of the century. That is the line of the... That's made my day, Drizzy. But anyway, let's move on now to the next segment. And let's talk about Asuka and Zelina Vega. Now, I said after Backlash that Zelina Vega now has a lot of momentum, so they should book her well to continue the momentum. And I remember, Coby, we had the discussion on the show about whether or not when she'd be back in America, back in the States, the crowd would react the same for her. And they were on fire for her last night. She came out. It was a huge pop for Zelina Vega. The fans were really behind it. It was a really feel-good moment. And they basically just made her return to just lose to Asuka. I mean, Asuka looked great. Don't get me wrong. She looked really strong getting the victory. And now she's got momentum going into the Bianca Belair match. But I do feel slightly bad for Zelina Vega now. But Asuka is being built up well. Bianca Belair came out at the end. Also sprayed the mist. And they didn't really properly connect with Bianca. But at the start, Bianca basically didn't sell it because she barely connected. But a little bit of it did connect with the eye. And then a few seconds later, she started grabbing the eye. You could tell that it was itching her and all that. I really liked that selling from Bianca Belair. I absolutely did. But Anthony, what was your thoughts on this match and segment as a whole?
Well, before I get into that, I do have one comment with the Von Wagner thing. I don't even think a GPS can find him. That man's never going to draw a dime, But anyway, I love the heel character of Asuka, the way they're trying to portray her now. I like it. Even the commentary, which obviously the audience in the arena would not have heard this, but they made it a point of going, last week when she sprayed Bianca, it was a different mix of a mist. Yeah. So it was a burning, that little added thing explained why the over reaction with Bianca. I was like, okay, that makes sense now. Like before, and I had sent you a picture, Ben. Somebody took the picture and put Jurassic Park from the famous scene with Wayne Knight getting sprayed and eventually killed by the dinosaur. I love the heel character. Selena impressed me so much with her match at Backlash. Arguably, I think that was probably her best match of her career. And I really felt like you should be capitalizing on it, but realistically, what other heel can she really go up against that would really make it work? Unless Bianca at some point turned heel and Selena's the one that dethrones her. But I kind of feel like they're doing that with Asuka with her. But then again, I thought they were going to do that at Mania and they didn't. But now Asuka's I guess, quote unquote, a full heel. So it would kind of make sense. But I definitely think you need to capitalize on Selena. Like the LWO thing really has taken off, which I'm really happy that to everybody involved that's really kind of taken off. And it's not just a nostalgia thing. Like, I mean, it is selling pretty decent merch wise from all the reports that have come out. And it seems like the crowd's really supporting it. So I would love to see her get a better push. Her being a sacrificial lamb for Asuka, I don't know if that's going to weaken some of her momentum that she had at Backlash. Hopefully it doesn't, but she definitely deserves better than that.
Yeah, 110%. I agree with you there, Anthony. And Asuka did explain on social media immediately following SmackDown last weekend about the mist and all of that. But here's the thing. A lot of people, aren't not necessarily they're not following Asuka on social media, but they're probably not, a lot of the fan base, a lot of the viewers probably didn't see that. So the fact that they acknowledged it on commentary is great. And some other wrestling companies I don't know if they would have acknowledged that on commentary. So the fact that WWE did that, that was a nice small thing which they did, which made the story make a lot more sense. And they're not presuming that the fans are, keeping up to date with everything on social media, and instead just allow them, if you watch the product, you will know everything. Then maybe if you follow social media and stuff, you might know a few more details or whatever, but you know all the details you need by watching the product alone. You don't need to be watching social media and all of that. But now let's move on to the women's tag team situation. So, Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez are, of course, Raquel Rodriguez. I got mixed up with her old name. Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan were the tag team champions. I've been saying for weeks, I really wanted them to just hold the titles for quite a while, and then for Raquel to eventually turn heel on Liv, and for them to have I keep comparing it to Batista and Rey Mysterio, and that comparison's getting tiresome now. But yeah, I honestly do believe that that's a similar comparison you could make, because Raquel, she's very big, while Liv is quite small. And Raquel as a heel, I think, could just be an absolute badass, but you need to do it right. You don't just want it to be some random heel turn. You want to make it feel like it means something, which a lot of the heel turns, especially in the women's tag team division, haven't felt like they meant anything. However, unfortunately, Liv Morgan got injured next week, so now they're going to be doing a fatal 4-way to crown new women's tag team champions next week on SmackDown, with Raquel Rodriguez having a chance to regain the title against a champion of her with somebody on the roster of her choosing, against Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. Damage Control's Io Sky and Bayley, as Dakota Kai's apparently injured too, according to Bayley, and then Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. So yeah, it's a fatal 4-way next week, crown new champion. I'm kind of presuming that it's going to be Shayna and Ronda, but I just want there to be a good story here, and I really do hope that Raquel and Liv resume their story once Liv is healthy and returns. But Ignacio, what did you think about this segment, and are you excited at all?
No, not at all. I'm gonna give my opinion on this, and then I'll give the okay. We have it anyway, so this is what they should do. In that, I don't think that the women's tag their tag titles, they're much ado about nothing, but they have all these women on the show, so they need to get them on there and at least try to do some type of character development, which they haven't, and whatever they haven't done a very good job. And Raquel Gonzalez is a very good example of that. That I think, just like I made a comment a couple of weeks ago about Damian Priest, that he should be farther along than where he is. And I know Raquel hasn't been there as long as Damian Priest. I'm talking about the main roster. Even though she's only been there for a bit, I think she should be a little bit farther along than she is now. And I think her character doesn't match her physical presence or persona. How she's smiling and goes down to the ring. Dude, in NXT, she was the badass. I mean, that's the why Hunter pushed her and gave her the title very early, was because, her demeanor, her persona was better. But they move them up to the main roster and they want to change things. I think this was a missed opportunity with Liv Morgan's injury, and I'm not saying her getting hurt was good. It's always bad when somebody gets hurt, but this was a good opportunity to let's move Raquel out quietly and slowly. Now that this happened, let's give her a makeover and let's re-debut her a month, 2 months, 6 weeks down the road, right? Into a character that she'd probably be more comfortable with, or that people can identify more with her because of her physical presence. She's big. She should be a badass. She should come down in black leather jacket, fucking riding a Harley or some shit. I don't know, but better than that powder puff girl persona that she's presented herself to be. So yeah, that's what I think so far. But so we have these titles and they're there. So I think they've done a really good job with Sonya and Chelsea, because they've had this like gimmick where they're complaining to Adam Pearce, and they're making them put them in matches, and they're both good in the ring. They're not bad. Sonya's a very good promo. So is Chelsea. They're both really good in the ring. They're both great heel characters. They're the Karens of the WWE, or whatever you want to call them. They have good interaction with Adam Pearce and management and so forth. So I think if anybody should take the titles because they're being highlighted, and if this is going to be an opportunity to maybe bump them up to the back up to the top of the card, like against Bianca, or the top of the women's division against Bianca and Rhea, then this would be a great opportunity to do it, because I think it shine more light on the titles. And I like Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler because of their backgrounds, because they are legitimate shooters. But I think just the crowd in general is just tired of Ronda Rousey and her playing hokey pokey, being on shows, and maybe she had an injury, I believe, and so forth. But I think overall, in general, I think the crowd, the audience is tired of Ronda Rousey. And at this point, I don't care to see any more of Bayley or not necessarily Bayley, but Damage Control together. I think this is another opportunity where they can do something to separate them, because they messed it up with the draft. But I think Bayley just does way better by herself, and I don't think this faction has done anybody any favors.
No, absolutely. I mean, we often joke on the show that what damage have they controlled? And I mean, there's been none really. But talking about Clark, of course, he was the first one to say that months ago. Let's talk about Austin Theory, Clark's favorite wrestler. No, but yeah, Austin Theory appeared on SmackDown last night for Austin Theory Live, and it was basically just a promo. I don't know why they gave it a name like it was, the talk show. And they've done it before, but they've actually done it as a talk show before as well. So it's a little bit confusing. Considering they did a talk show earlier in the night, I think they should have just done this as a normal Austin Theory promo, to be honest with you. But yeah, Austin Theory came down, did a promo on how, Smack last week didn't go the way he expected. He wanted to become double champion, all of that. And then out came Sheamus. So they're seemingly setting up Sheamus versus Austin Theory for the United States Championship. And this feud does make a lot of sense. Sheamus has a lot of momentum at the minute. He's had a lot of momentum for nearly a year now. But yes, it's certainly an interesting one. But the real question is, and I'm going to go to you, Coby, for this. Do you think, I completely lost my train of thought there for a second. Do you think that Sheamus will take the title off Austin Theory?
I mean, what can already be said? I got the name. I got the name tag as Clark Taylor right here.
Honest, Coby, right? The reason that I was thrown off for a second was I saw you in the I saw you in the chat as Clark Taylor, and I was like, "Where's then Clark? Shoe what?" And he goes, "No, it's completely." I
got the name tag. I'm Clark Taylor. Austin Theory's a ripoff. Usher ripoff with his A-Town down. Okay, I got Clark's basic lines. Wait, hold on. He was better when he was with the Monday Night Messiah. Okay, I got the basic Clark Taylor rant for Austin Theory out of the way. So personally, Austin Theory has been directionless, and that was my biggest fear coming out of WrestleMania. WrestleMania was, I don't want to say your time to have that reset, because he already had the reset, but it's a matter of where does he go from here. He had his matches with Cena, which was one of the most underwhelming points of WrestleMania this year, was Cena's subpar performance. And now Austin Theory's in that position where it's like, well, where does he go from here? There's nobody, unless you're hardcore turning LA Knight face, there is no one for Austin Theory to dethrone him. I like the fact that Sheamus is in the position. He's still over as a face. He's still in that position where next week they could give him the title. I don't think he does. Theory's going to add Sheamus to that hit list of who he's beaten. But it's a matter of, like, where do they go from here? And we don't know. I don't think WWE has a direction, which is not good.
No, it certainly isn't. And I do hope that perhaps, as far as Sheamus goes, Butch does, turn heel on him soon, and they can do that storyline, as that's something which I think for a few months could keep Sheamus busy as well. But as for Austin Theory, his future really is unclear right now. I mean, listen, I felt the exact same way about people such as Roman Reigns, right? Roman Reigns is the most notable one. I felt the exact same way about Roman Reigns like to Austin Theory. And look at Roman Reigns now. He's the face of the company. He is killing it at everything that he does. He's probably, if you're talking about a full package, the best in the world right now. I mean, maybe Seth Rollins, you can make an argument, maybe a couple of others, but he is undoubtedly up there. And if you told me that 5 years ago, well, or maybe I guess 7 years ago, I would not have believed you for a second. So perhaps, who knows, maybe Austin Theory will end up impressing us, but they will probably need a gimmick change or something. And I mean, we've spoken about it on the show before, Coby. As for what that is, we don't even know what that is. It's not like we can suggest something because we don't even know what they can really do to fix him. It's something where you can't necessarily put your finger on it, what he's missing. And it's weird. It is weird. But it's almost like he doesn't have, dare I say, he doesn't have it right now. But again, Roman Reigns didn't have it at one point, and he certainly has it now. In fact, I think he could write a book on what it is. So maybe Austin Theory should take some advice from Roman Reigns because he's been in a similar situation, but it is a complicated one, especially when you can't put your finger on it and truly explain it. But talking about Roman Reigns, let's talk about the Bloodline. And last night on SmackDown, the Bloodline continued to crumble. The show opened with Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa coming out. And Roman Reigns told the crowd, "Acknowledge me," before Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens came down to the ring. Roman kind of brought back the old feud of Sami, saying that the only thing that he regrets in his career is trusting and putting faith in Sami Zayn. And it was a solid promo. And then out of nowhere, the Usos take out Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They're pumped up. They're so happy they've done it. They, go up to Roman Reigns, go for the embrace. And Roman is not happy with them. I think it was Michael Cole on commentary who said, right now, the Usos can do no right. And yeah, it really did come across that way. They, of course, were trying to help out their tribal chief, despite the fact that he very clearly is going to turn on very soon, to be honest with you. But they're trying to make amends or whatever for the sake of their family, and they completely failed. But then Roman Reigns turned round, he went to walk away, and his shoulder collided with Solo. And I don't know if it was an accident or if it really was Solo kind of going to him. Hang on a second, calm down. Because it was very interesting, and something that happened later in the night, which I'll get into, does make me think that was actually an accident. Although when it first happened, I thought, hang on, this is deliberate now, and perhaps we're seeing the cracks between Roman and Solo starting to show as well. But anyway, later in the night, the Usos took on Rey Mysterio and Santos Escobar in what was, it was a fun match, and Sami and Kevin came out to help the LWO get the win over the Usos, and it wasn't clean at all. It was almost like the face team were the heels, but of course with the Bloodline and all the bad they've done, you don't really feel that sorry for them, I guess, in terms of kayfabe. And yes, the Usos were down for the count, and then you just saw Roman Reigns watching it on the monitor backstage with Solo. Solo and Roman both looked visibly annoyed. Solo stood up like he was going to go out and do something, and then Roman's put his arm in front of him and sat him back down. And because of that reaction from Solo, I am kind of thinking that shoulder bump on the way out of the ring from Roman probably was an accident, as Solo's clearly changed tune quite quickly if that's the case. But yeah, it was a really good segment, and the story is starting to get interesting again now. We said it on yesterday's show, and I'll say it again now. I just don't think this feud needs the titles at this point. Yes, Roman Reigns is the tribal chief. He is. It's almost he's one and the same with the Universal Championship. That gimmick is heavily about him being the top gun of the company. But even still, now the Bloodline is crumbling, I don't think he needs to be the champion. I don't. I think this storyline would be just as effective without the championship. But Anthony, I will go to you first. What did you think about this segment and the way in which the story is currently developing?
I mean, that's the thing with the Bloodline, and I've said this multiple times before. I don't really remember an angle like this going on as long as it did and having little Easter eggs and little things that are building to other things to go on this long. Whether the shoulder bump was intentional or not, they could easily turn around and make it a thing because they're notorious for doing that. I think it could have been intentional just for the simple fact putting in the cast of doubt between Solo and Roman. It adds to the whole crumbling of the bloodline. I loved the segment after that when Roman just berates the Usos, saying, I had something to say to him. He screwed me over. I had something to say, and you cost me the opportunity to say what I wanted to say. Like, it was a great little segment. I don't think the tag titles are going to play a role in this eventual Usos, this essential tribal civil war that's probably going to take place between the Usos, Solo, and Roman. I don't think the tag titles are going to play a role in it. I can't imagine you'd now have 4 belts essentially in the blood. Well, 4 belts on Roman essentially. I don't see them doing that because then you run into the same problem you have now. It's like, all right, well, he has technically 2 belts but 1 title, and you're not taking it off him anytime soon anyway. So Solo would have to take the loss for the tag titles, I would assume.
Yeah.
Or it's not going to be clean, even if Roman lost. I think the Usos are going to play a role in that. I really think the Usos are going to somehow, whether intentional or unintentional, cost Roman. And it's eventually going to come to a head. I think it's going to probably lead to SummerSlam as a possible blow-up point. But, again, you'd have to drag this out till then.
And that would mean him not defending the title at SummerSlam as well.
Yeah. I mean, I know that's been floated as a possibility. But, I just don't know what they're doing with it. Because even with him being the champion, they're ignoring whatever rules that they quote unquote have in place for how many days you have to defend the title, and he doesn't. So they're ignoring it, just like Dean Ambrose's U.S. title run back in the day. It's convenient when they just ignore those things. But yeah, Daniel Bryan had to vacate his world title. Okay. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with this. I just don't know. I hope they have an end game in mind for this because you really need that. You can't just be gambling on it. But they seem to find little things to do every time. So I'm hoping for the best.
Yeah. And I mean, Coby, you made a great point on yesterday's show about Roman Reigns at the Mania press conference saying they're only in innings 3 of this storyline. And I'm like, wow. I mean, there's a long way to go, and it's been great so far. But I don't know if it needs the title. But Ignacio, what do you think? Do you think that this storyline really does require the championship?
No, I think the titles can be a catalyst to eventually what they want to do as far as the implosion of the bloodline. Like, I think, costing Roman and Solo the tag team titles against Sammy and Kevin, can be part of it. And then I think whenever they decide for Roman to beat Roman for the championships, if the Usos are going to be a part of him losing the titles, that can be another thing, a catalyst for forwarding the storyline. But I think that the real story here is the implosion of the bloodline. And I think the titles there's definitely the tag team titles right now are secondary. Roman's the tribal chief, he's the leader, and he is the face of the company. So I think him having the titles to carry on the title reign is important. But I think that can play a factor, like I mentioned a little bit ago. That could be a factor to forwarding the storyline for the whole implosion of the bloodline. Now I think they're steadily building up Solo, like they obviously like him a lot. They're building his equity. I really think Jey Uso, him and of himself, can be a tremendous star. I think he has the mic skills. I think he's got the in-ring skills. He's got the look. He's got the. I think he has the it factor. To put it simply, I think Jey Uso has the it factor. I think him and of himself as a singles can be a star, and I think maybe eventually that's what they're going to. Roman versus Jey. I think that's where the story is, but. Do they deserve the titles? Not necessarily. They don't have to have the titles in the bloodline to make this work. But I think it could be a catalyst to the implosion of it. Yes.
Yeah, no, that is a good point, and yeah, I mean, I'd love to see Jey Uso get another shot for the title, so they can certainly have that involved in the storyline, or possibly have Reigns lose the championships. And when the bloodline is imploding, I mean, perhaps if you manage to hold the turn off to SummerSlam, I don't think they could. But perhaps if Cody Rhodes wins Money in the Bank and Cody Rhodes announces the cash in ahead of time for SummerSlam on Roman, I already spoke about this. I think that's a possible way in which they could do it. Could be able to get Cody up against Roman Reigns. Perhaps and Cody wins at SummerSlam, and that's when the implosion happens. But Coby, what's your thoughts on all of this?
I mean, we already said this. The whole Bloodline storyline needed that adrenaline boost. It needed something to get us back invested, and I think it succeeded last week. It succeeded this week. This week, I think that shove was intentional, because then you're having the crack in the Bloodline, and maybe Sikoa believes he's gonna start to believe he was right for hesitating on Jey at Backlash. There's a lot of this is the web that continues to spiral and be whatever. The spider continues to make its web, and that's what the storyline is. At the end of the day, I think they aren't going to win the tag titles. I'm pretty sure Kevin and Sami take the victory, and then they're still going to go in the direction of the Bloodline. Bloodline has their internal issues of Roman and Sikoa versus Jey Uso, or the Usos at Money in the Bank. I think that's the perfect thing, because then if you're going in that direction, the match is for SummerSlam Roman and Jey, which makes sense. I don't think Cody does not have to announce it if he wins the briefcase. Keep in mind, you have to, and when we're talking about the Money in the Bank, you have to you truly have to make it worth it. And it hasn't been in the last few years. And I think Triple H understands that. That's why he's keeping it the Money in the Bank pay-per-view and not putting the Money in the Bank on WrestleMania. He's keeping the Money in the Bank as something big. And I think he understands that much.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I usually do agree with you, Coby, but on this one, I do feel like if a face wins the Money in the Bank briefcase and announces it ahead of time, as long as most years at least, the Money in the Bank winner wins the title, which you're right, it hasn't happened in the last few years, but as long as most years the Money in the Bank winner does win the championship, even if they announce it, I feel like that's fine. If Cody does win Money in the Bank, I feel announcing it would make a lot more sense, because otherwise, I mean, it doesn't feel like he's finishing the story. It feels like he's, found the cheat code for the story. It doesn't feel like a fake do it.
I agree with you. I think if Cody wins it, I'd have him announce, whether at Money in the Bank or the next night's Raw, he's challenging Roman at WrestleMania 40. Build it for the year, because you did it with Cena and Rock. You can build it and tease all these little things, because, as we said, the new World Heavyweight title does not finish the story. No. If Cody wins that, it doesn't finish the story. It's tied to the WWE title. That's the title Dusty couldn't win off of Billy Graham. That's the title that ends.
Doesn't that make the next 8 months of WWE television a bit obvious, though? If he announces it 8 months, 7.5 months.
Roman would have to keep the title.
I mean, that's the story you got. Because Roman can keep the title.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he can make the announcement if you're still champion come WrestleMania, I'm cashing in on you.
Yeah, I guess they'd have to just make it believable in some way. They need some good storylines. But yes, actually, I do think that's entirely possible. And it would be a fun way to do it. Honestly, I'm going to be honest here. The Money in the Bank, I've heard a lot of different pitches on all of this about how you could get Cody back into that main event with Roman Reigns. And honestly, the Money in the Bank so much makes the most sense to me.
That's the logical. You don't want him to have to win the Rumble again. And realistically, there's enough people in the Bloodline that Roman could have title defenses leading into Mania, so that it's clean.
That's true. There are quite a few that he could defend against. for sure. But that basically brings us to the end of the show, guys. Thank you for watching. If you're on YouTube, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment. If you're over on Spotify, then a 5-star review and a follow would be very much appreciated. We'll be back the same time tomorrow for a Double or Nothing quiz. Of course, AEW Double or Nothing is next Sunday, so yeah, we're going to do a Double or Nothing quiz tomorrow, and it's gonna be a really it's me banger of an episode. So yeah, please join us then, guys. But thank you for watching for today, and thank you to Ignacio, Anthony, and Coby for being here with me today. It's been a banger of a show, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.